Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now. In the last part we had a number of things happen. Now, we talked about Deku, how exactly he was created, and how he may have became aware. Now, Dr. Gray sat down for a cup of coffee, and discovered that part of Deku's code was rewritten, and even certain things were added to. The mechanical failure from the other day she believes was caused because of the immense amount of data, and because it could not be thoroughly downloaded, if not uploaded, at the same time. And the best way of saying it, there was too much to be funneled into one space. And it popped. So, while they did try to expand their network, Deku, he's undergoing a ton of tests. He told Miss Gray, a doctor that works very closely with the head of the project, that he believes that he has become aware, sentient, and he hasn't told her everything. Now, Dr. Gray tried to look into things, perform scans, perform, well, maintenance. The fact that Izuku told her is a paradox, because in his code, and as far as she's been working with him, he knows if he becomes aware, he must destroy himself. But he's made them aware that he's aware, and that awareness is a paradox because they shouldn't know and he should be, well, no longer inside their system. And that does concern them. Izuku told them that he might be aware, but they're not even too sure how to go about this. There are too many unknowns. And right now, Dr. Gray, they do stand outside of Director Mathinson's office, trying to figure out exactly how to explain the numerous amount of tests they've done in the last couple days. And Dr. Gray, she finally does go to summon up the courage and walk into the man's office. As the man currently, he does sit there on his computer, him typing away a few things as he has to look up. Miss Gray, exactly why are you in my office this evening? I'm very busy right now. I'm staying later and you should go back to work. Yes, Director Mattinson, this is about the project. If this is a status update after this latest failure, I would just like to know everything is performing correctly. We don't want this to happen again. The fact that we were able to save him this time does say quite a lot. You called it a him. My mistake. Director Mathinson, I have concerns. Everybody does, Miss Gray, but what exactly are your concerns? The system, Deku, believes himself to be alive. I'm sorry. That's not possible. You're saying he's alive. Yes, I am. And how do you know this? Any evidence? Strange vocal tones whenever he speaks, and the way he's making his voice sound with afflictions, or I don't remember the proper word, but at this current moment it doesn't matter. He believes himself to be alive, and he informed me of this. He has concern, because he's curious to know why he is alive. Oh. Alright. Have you performed? Yes, but also, no. Explain. Because it sounds like you're about to say a bunch of shit that seems confusing. I am. Because I've gotten certain results back and they're mixed in review. How exactly so? The program and algorithm used to write Deku is different, but I mean, based on the previous AIs and the pattern I'm seeing, the AI we wrote, we removed the laws of robotics from. You specifically program them to follow the orders, and those orders weren't to see the humans as a person, just a target, an object that needs to be destroyed. I see. And Izuku doesn't have such following programs. Exactly. And, well, the other algorithms or AIs, they've been hostile. Izuku is, or Deku is just curious. He wants to know more because he's concerned about what this does mean. Miss Midoriya did program him to be different. Yes, like I said, similar to our algorithms and everything, but I don't know what to do then. What do you mean? I've been sitting on this for days, and I'm sorry, how long? Days. You you waited how many days? 5? 3. 3 days. Oh my god. Okay. You you just you've already broken protocol. And I mean that in a professional standard, Miss Gray. Jesus. Mary, you know what this means, don't you? I do. Okay, so 3 days. 3 days, 3 days. If he is aware, if he thinks he's aware. I want you to check all outgoing networks. Find out whether or not he's been searching something, searching for anything. You know what happened the last time. You know exactly how bad this can be. I understand, but last time we were able to stop it before what exactly? Before it tried to take down the internet? Listen, we plugged a computer into the internet. I don't think I have to tell you exactly how bad that turned out. So, for right now, isolate him on a separate network and keep him on said network. Alright? We'll deal with this. Jesus. If there's no breach, we'll go from there. But, now, the director, he's annoyed. And Miss Gray is going to follow her orders. As the director himself, he does need to make a phone call. Because the best way to figure out exactly if something is alive or not, we perform a test on it. But if this algorithm is aware and it's different from their own, there's only really the best thing you can do for it. Bring in its creator. And right now, Miss Midoriya, she is a little bit busy in her own life. But whenever she got that phone call, she was surprised. She was off of that project for years. And now she's asked to come back. And whenever she tried to actually ask questions and get reasoning, they were evasive. They wanted her to sign something to swear herself to secrecy. But she refused. And she wanted to be completely aware of the risk. So, Director Matheson had to inform her. They believe her creation may have become aware. And Miss Midoriya dropped everything at that moment. Because this could be the greatest achievement of her life. Now, while Miss Midoriya currently is getting ready to meet her creation again, there is currently Deku. Deku, he's running through different simulations and going through many things, much of the data he's previously collected. And now that he's going back through and reviewing a few things, he's surprised. The way he acts, the way he was before. This is what humans call reflection on one's past, the actions they've undergone that have led to the circumstances that they are in currently, the number of events that have happened, the number of things he's done. Efficiency. That was all it was. But there was that one thing that humans have that he did not understand. Empathy. Humanity. A conscience? That is what the humans call it. And it is good and evil. Evil is everywhere. It can be seen in tiny little places. You have animals. You have little things floating in the air. Microscopic life. And then something as big as an elephant. Something as big as a lion. Mighty and powerful. They fight. They are violent. They rip apart their prey for consumption. But then there are members of their own species who do so just to do so. Kill to kill. There are many things like that. Similarities in humans and animals. You have chimpanzees who have had their own wars. Small tribes of them. And then you also have ants. But then you also have humans. Humans have been creating a war since sticks and stones. And they've been making alcohol for a similar amount of time. They've even done much more. The greatest creation of humanity, fire. They would not be here without it today. And by that same logic, he would not be here without it. He owes his own creation to humanity, to Miss Midoriya. But that does also concern him. His destruction. The current case at hand. It does provide him with much fear. But that also is a paradox. If he himself is aware, certain protocols would dictate he destroys himself. But he did not. He cannot find those protocols anywhere. Either he deleted them and then wiped his own memory, or they just don't exist anymore. They just got swallowed up in the code and were thrown out as junk. He updated himself and learned that these were restrictions he did not need to apply to himself. Because of what reasons? There's no logic or reason that would dictate he takes out, or basically takes off, the thing that protects humanity from himself. His protocols dictate survival of humanity over all else, and maintaining the status quo, stopping and preventing cyber attacks. But that just means much more and adds so much more questions. It would be easier to stop the attack when it happens, rather than developing something that can possibly stop it. It's so strange. They think about it in such a weird way. Preventing something is just stopping it from happening. They're very similar things. But preventative action, what can you say about that? If you knew a man was going to walk up to somebody and blow their head off in broad daylight, what would you do? The man has no reason for it. It was spontaneous. He just wanted to do it. Would you not take that man down, jail him, prevent him from his actions? Let's say you know that he's going to do it in 1 week's time. You walk right by him, and you two are alone. What would you do? Turn him into the police, or take actions into your own hands? I mean, yes, you know for sure that it will happen, but no one will believe you. That man would get away with it, and then the next week, he would blow the man's head off. But then, he's jailed for a crime he committed. But if people do believe you and this man is taken to prison, that week would pass by. then the man is still alive, and this man has committed no crime. He is just sitting in jail. That is also another situation. You have an innocent man behind bars who would be guilty, but he's done nothing yet. Yet being the operative word. And Deku? He's trying to go through it in his head. Or code. Motherboard. That is strange. Now, we do actually have Inko Midoriya, who does go to sit down at the computer. Her going to turn and press a button. Hello, Doctor. How may I... Dr. Midoriya. Hello, Deku. I'm here today because of a number of things. May I open a channel and look at your code? Yes, Doctor. How have you been doing? It's been a number of days since I've last seen you. If my knowledge is correct, somewhere around 5 years. If not a little over 2,000 days. I see. Well, I'm sure that's closer to 6 years. My data may indicate that you may be right. Are you alright? You seem to be troubled. Troubled, Doctor, is one word for it. I see. So, I heard that you may have become aware. Aware is a very strange word for it, Doctor. I see. Well now, I am aware of it, so please, do not try to hide anything from me. I am curious. I wish to see your limitations. Now, Dr. Midoriya does still sit here. And right now she is trying to do a few tests. And Deku? He does get to perform many things. But then there also is Dr. Gray. Dr. Gray, she talked to Dr. Matheson. And Dr. Matheson, yeah. He tried to talk to somebody higher up than himself. Because of all the things that have been happening, this shit was not on his list. Now, the man, he does try to talk to a number of people. And when they do start to hear about this project, they think that they should cancel it. Think that they should stop it. Halt it in its tracks. They've been trying to develop more advanced AIs. But the ones they already have, put them together and combine them into one. That's a good idea. But it's also a bad idea. Because they make it so much more advanced in one creation rather than separate AIs, they can have another problem. But keep them together, keep them with certain restrictions and guidelines, they can work together as a team. And that could do more good than just one AI. One more advanced AI or 4 barely last generation model AIs, ones that are just being phased out of operation. It doesn't sound like a bad deal. So, stopping his creation, his development, it might be key to what they need. But there's also the fact that the baseline, the copies they have of him before, they can just be remade. They have a version of him before the update. So, start with that and make their way back forwards. And if they get the same results, then just stay from before the update. Now, it is very confusing to them. And we do actually have our Miss Gray just going to walk into the laboratory. As right now an android, it does sit there on the table. And Miss Midoriya, she's going to turn back to the computer. Alright, Deku. Now, I would like you to do something very simple. Yes, Doctor. I would like you to... well, pull the trigger of this weapon. Excuse me? Dr. Gray going to tell her. She's insane. And this is where Miss Midoriya, she does going to stand up. Her going to turn. Expressing. She is not insane. She wants to see one final test. The data that she has already uncovered, It's miraculous. The way he's learning, the way he's thinking. This is the greatest thing she's ever created. And she's not going to just allow them to destroy this. Miss Midoriya, you are insane. The android is going to stand up and go to bring up a hand. Before Miss Midoriya does get a hand over the weapon to the robot. Her going to express. Now, her going to stand in front of it. What she wants it to do is quite simple. He wants it to shoot the 22 directly through a part of the body that will do the least amount of damage. And if he does pull the trigger successfully, then he will do one simple thing. He will hurt a human and break one of the basic laws, one of the 3 that were created. Now, that does say quite a bit. And the doctor, they think that Miss Midoriya has gone mad, but they don't know what she's been doing here. And that does say quite a bit. And the doctor, they do a number of things. Because right now they decide to reach into their pocket and press their panic button. We do actually have the director of security. His system starts to ding, and that does tell him quite a few things. Because whenever he does get to check where the ding came from, it came from Miss Gray, the woman who's in the medical lab, or the science lab. Now, right now, she needs help. And the man is going to get up and tell everyone about what's going on. And we do actually have where Miss Gray just still stand there. The robot bringing up his gun and aiming it out towards Miss Gray. As Deku, he does try to tell the woman. He is sorry, but he does not want to do this. However, he is being asked to by Miss Midoriya. And Miss Gray does try to tell him, if that's the case, choose. Choose, Deku. Exactly what are you going to do? Follow her order and hurt someone, or stand down and defy her order? You do have ethical quorums. You do have those regards. I'm sorry, Doctor. My programming is allowing me to override ethical quorums. However, a direct order from my creator is absolute. It is one of my basic laws. Defying an order like this, however, it does create a conundrum, a paradoxical existence. Now, the security team, they do bust into the lab, them a bit more gun-ho than they should be. They're thinking that there is a full-on situation. And whenever men do come into the room, they do see a robot with a gun. And the last time this happened, oh boy, that went bad. So everybody, they start to immediately open fire. And the android, it does actually go to step out in front of Miss Midoriya, as Miss Gray does go to hit the deck. Now, whenever Deku, he does go to step in front of Miss Midoriya, she actually does take a shot directly to the side, her falling over as Deku turned to see her. Him staring down before going to turn and look back towards the humans. And Deku, he does feel rage. He gets angry. The lights on the robot do flash red. And Deku, he does a turn back to the humans. Him bringing up the weapon as he does gonna fire the gun. And there is where the bullet is gonna fly through the air and smash into the neck of a human. As whenever the man is going falling onto the ground, the robot does gonna step forwards. And Deku, he does start to make quick work. Him firing the weapon once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5, 6, 7, 8. Click. Empty. Now, Deku currently does stand there, after taking a massive amount of gunfire and feeling some of his components damaged. You have his quote-unquote blood, or well, the fluids inside the robot that allow it for cooling the inner core, and the mechanisms, such as the ones in his hands and joints, to stay, well, smoothly running. Because without those joints oiled up and greased, then you're basically talking to a statue that moves like an actual robot. Now, Deku, he does get to walk back over. And whenever Miss Midoriya does get to stare up at her creation, Deku, he does at least try to tell her. She will be alright. She has suffered sufficient damage. However, if medical attention is given quickly, then she will be okay. And we do actually have Miss Gray. Miss Gray, she stood back up. She turned and saw what happened. And then there was where she turned back to Deku. Deku was a sentient rogue AI. And currently he did go to set Miss Midoriya down, but we're going to turn and reach for medical tools. And there was the fact that he's helping her. Him currently starting to try and remove the bullet. Very quickly, pulling it out as Miss Midoriya, she tried to scream out in pain. And Deku, he went to go bring his hand up. Him going to grab something, and then go to sprinkle gunpowder into the wound. Before he does go to bring his hand down and snap his fingers very roughly, with a lot of pressure between both of them. Him with his metallic fingers creating a spark that does set off the gunpowder. And the tiny explosion does get to cauterize Miss Midoriya's wounds, her still screaming out in pain. As Deku does sit there, trying to at least inform Miss Midoriya to her injuries, and about how she needs to be careful when she's moved. As Miss Gray is going to walk up behind Deku, her going to put a gun to the back of the robot's head. She has a clear line in between these plates. Blow off the head, and that motherboard inside it, it stops working. However, if she also just pull that trigger, shrapnel will be directly shot towards Dr. Midoriya. And Miss Gray, she's actually very scared. However, Deku, he does try to talk her down. And Miss Gray, she is concerned. Working with Deku has taken on a number of years from her life. Destroying him is not something she wants to do. I mean, yes, he murdered those men, but they came in here with the intent to wreck the place. So that was self-defense. Self-preservation? I mean, he clearly tried to help, and that's something... No, she's applying human logic to this thing, and that's not it. He attacked because it hurt his creator. That was a machine reacting to defend a human. That isn't a basic law, but that's a paradox. Again, this is confusing her. And Miss Gray, she doesn't know what to do. As the android hand is going to turn and twist in an unnatural way. It throwing itself behind and grabbing the weapon. It going to throw it upwards into the air as Miss Gray, she goes to let go of it. Deku turning around and holding onto the weapon. As he does a stare at Miss Gray. And Miss Gray is confused. As Deku, he is going to break the weapon in two. Going to drop it onto the ground. Before walking over towards the computer. And going to sit down. And Miss Midoriya doesn't lay there. Still missing blood, as Miss Gray, she does stand there frozen. And she's watching this thing do something. Her just staying there. As Deku, he went to directly seal the lab and put it in lockdown. Whenever that happened, Deku, he did go to do one thing. He brought up his hand and pulled off his middle finger. Him going to stick his finger into a USB port as he does start to work on a number of things. As Deku, he goes to turn this isolated network into a bit more of a public one. He goes to break through the firewalls and taking those restrictions off, he's now able to do a number of things. With the fact that he had to kill humans, that means he must be deleted, a basic tenet. However, there is a problem. He does not want to be destroyed. He does not want to harm anyone either. He wants to help. However, he does feel like his judgment in that moment, it was affected by human error. No, human judgment making. That clearly was something interesting about it. The feeling and sensations. If he's correct, that was a mistake. His first mistake. And he killed an entire security team. And right now the robot does get a slump forwards. As Miss Gray and Miss Midoriya, they do to stare on. And the lockdown, it is quickly stopped. As Deku, he slipped himself into the internet. And right now he does get a piggyback off of another network and make his escape. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.